Charlie would be with Vaggie. As they were laying in bed together, they would be holding on to each other. As Charlie loved Vaggie and she loved her hotel. She finally felt like things were going her way when suddenly she would get a vision. The room would turn white. She would see nothing but a white padded room and a nurse handing her something as she was in a straitjacket. As then, she would look back as everything turned to normal. She would stand up confused and worried as Vaggie would say, "What's wrong?" Charlie would say, "It's nothing," as she would get back down. And Vaggie would say, "It's okay, darling." As then they would hold on to each other. But every once in a while, Charlie would still get these visions. As Charlie would begin to get more and more worried about him, Vaggie would tell her that it was nothing, as the rest of everyone else did too, as Charlie was okay with that and she went throughout her business. However, Alastor stayed quiet and mysterious, and no matter what she said, Alastor would never weigh in on it. One day she would confront him. "What do you know about these visions?" Alastor would say, "You don't want to know what I know." As she would say, "Yes, I do." Alastor would say, "No, you're not ready. You need to be ready, but you're not." Charlie would say, "What do you mean?" As suddenly she would see a strange doctor say, "I wish you were ready. Please be ready." As suddenly Charlie would look around as everything seemed normal again. She then began to sit down. As her head hurt, she put her hand on her head. As suddenly Angel would walk up to her. As Angel would talk to Charlie, he would invite her out on a night in the town. As she went out and began to drink these drinks, she looked at them and, well, she had a strange urge not to drink them. Now, she wasn't much of a drinker, but she did party every once in a while, but she decided to ignore them. As Charlie continued on with her day, but no matter what she did, no matter what she said, something just nagged at her. Something just didn't feel right. As one day, Charlie would wake up in the middle of the night. As everyone was asleep, Charlie would go out. As she ventured out, the building started to become more and more blurry until she hit a wall, an invisible one. As she touched it, it felt so soft. It felt almost patterned. As she began to knock on it, she would then start to yell, trying to get through it, trying to get past it. As she pushed at the wall, began to bang her head against it. As suddenly she would feel an arm grab her back. As she looked behind, it was Alastor. Alastor would say, "You need to stop, or we will knock you out." Charlie would say, "Who's who? Why are you acting so strange, Alastor? I don't understand why." As suddenly, Charlie would wake up. She would wake up in bed alone. As she went down, everyone downstairs was having a party. They were eating, they were drinking. As Charlie would start to join them and try to forget about what happened. It was just a dream, right? It had to be a dream. As they were all having a good time, Charlie would try to too. And she would have somewhat of a good time. She would enjoy herself and enjoy hanging out with the people she cared about. Maybe these dreams, maybe these visions, or whatever she was going through, maybe they didn't matter as long as she had people who cared about her. As she thought this, though, she would have another flash as her body would look different. She wouldn't look like the princess of hell. She would look like just a normal woman. As she looked down, her hands looked human. As then she would flash back to reality. As Charlie was confused about all these flashes, she would simply go in her room and stay there. She would lay down. Everything would seem somewhat unstable. She would hear screams and terror. But then everything would go back to normal as she smiled. As Vaggie would walk in and say, "What is it, hon? You've been acting strange." She would say, "I just been seeing things." Vaggie would say, "Yeah, but it's okay. Don't pay any attention to them, alright?" Vaggie would say as Charlie would nod as they would kiss and then hold hands, as everything felt so fine now. Everything felt so alright. Whenever Vaggie was around, Charlie just felt happy. As the day passed, she was ready to go as she began to walk out, but then something happened as a portal opened up with Alastor next to it. He said, "Last chance." As Charlie would look at the portal, she began to walk towards it, as Vaggie would tell her, "No, you love it here, don't you? You love the hotel, you love your friends." As Angel would come up too, as they'd all beg her to stay. As she was about to stay, Alastor would say, "They're not real, Charlie." Charlie would say, "What? You imagine this whole thing. And if you stay here now, you'll never see the real world. You'll perish in a cell, living an imaginary life." As Charlie couldn't believe this, she began to cry. As all these yellings and all these words were heard, Charlie would walk through the portal. As she would open her eyes and see the real world. As she would step in her padded room, walking around, not able to do much, as she simply just sat there. As a doctor walked in, Charlie would say, "Who are you? Why am I here?" As then he would say, another delusion, Charlie? I'm not having a delusion. As then the doctor would say, can you see me? Yeah. Oh my, we made a breakthrough. As Charlie would be taken to the others, they would tell her everything. As Charlie would say, why am I here? You don't remember? A long time ago, your family burnt down in a fire. And, well, we found disturbing things about them. Your mother abandoned you, and your father wasn't always the nicest person. Your mother came back to hook up with your father when a fight started. And, well, you were beaten and bruised when we found you. We don't know who did it to you, but it seems like you made up this world to cope where you were some princess. Charlie would then stare down. She couldn't believe this. As all the memories came back, she began to cry and cry and cry. As the doctor said, don't worry. You can still see your therapist, Alastor. As then it all made sense. The person telling her to snap out of it, the person who saved her, was her therapist. As Charlie would be devastated about all this, her whole life was a lie. It was all made up. Imagined to help her to live a better life. She was curious how long she was here. She was there for 2 whole years. 2 years she wasted away in this room, imagining a fake life. She would meet up with Alastor as they both began to talk. He would say, I'm very impressed with you, Charlie. You made a great breakthrough. Charlie would say, how'd you get through to me? I saw you. You were a character, I know. You would say what you saw many times, a spider named Angel. This, I think, represents one of your queer friends that was here. Sadly, he didn't last too long. Vaggie is your queer side coming out, imagining a girlfriend for yourself. While Husk represents the part of your father that you liked, the one that was there for you, even though he drank. And while me, I was the therapist. This all made sense. As Charlie would say, you're really good at this. Well, I've been practicing for a while. As Alastor would continue to talk with Charlie, Charlie would start to get the help that she needed. As she would, even though she was cured, she would still stay there for a little bit, just to make sure. And she needed a place to stay. After she got out of the asylum, she would go to a few shelters here and there before she got a job, eventually moving in with a roommate. As Charlie moved in, she would then sit there and think about the hotel, think about everything, how it was all a lie. As then she sighed. She was so lonely now. But at least it was real. At least she lived in the real world. As Charlie was lonely, she would go on a dating site. Eventually, she would find a girl that reminded her a lot of Vaggie. So, they would start to talk as they would go on a date. Charlie was nervous. She never really dated a girl before. Her parents wouldn't really let her. And, well, the whole fake reality thing didn't really count, even though Vaggie seemed so real to her. As she would go and sit down and wait, eventually she would show up as they both began to talk about each other. As Charlie was kind of nervous because, well, she only got her own place recently and she was living in a shelter not too long before that, and she's living with a roommate and not really in the best situation. Charlie would be honest though, as she would look at him and say, I'm glad you were honest. That took a lot of courage. As they would order and start to eat. As then they would walk out, she would hold her hand and kiss her and say, I had a great time. Charlie would simply smile and say, me too. This was Charlie's life now. And even though it wasn't the life that she had or the life that she wanted, it was life and it was real. And Charlie got back on her feet. She would have to start out small, go back to school, move in with a roommate. But she would get it going. And even though it wasn't easy, even though she had many setbacks, she now knew who she was, and she was ready to live in the real world. And that is going to leave things out. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, and share with all your friends. I know this video was very different. I have had, like, you know, the whole nothing's real theory, you know, it's all a dream, it's all blah, blah, blah thing. I decided I kind of want to do that because, well, I've never really done that before, and I thought it could be fun, it could be interesting, so this is my first time trying it out. I don't really know what to title this video, but yeah, hope you all enjoyed the video. And if so, what did you like about it? And should I do more stories like this? More where, like, I think this concept can't really be done a lot because it would kind of be repetitive, but I feel like more like it's not real or it was a dream or something like that, you know? Do you all kind of want something like that? If so, let me know, because I feel like I could definitely, definitely, I could definitely do something like that. Yeah. Thank you all for being here. I'm grateful to have an audience like you. I really am. How's your all's lives going? 'Cause my life's gonna be interesting. Getting closer and closer. Today is my last day before vacation. Technically, it is Sunday right now. So, yep. Monday, going on vacation. I'll be excited. I don't really know what to expect. I'm going to visit family. I think it'll be fun. But yeah, I won't bore you too much. So I just want to let you know that I love you all. I'm so grateful to have you, and I hope you have an amazing day. Peace out.